Hello, welcome back to the DMside. This is the 2.5 video for session 2, speaking about what I think is going to happen in terms of factions. So in the first video for this week, if you want to check it out, it's in the link in the description below. That speaks about where the characters came from in chapter 1, Trollskull Manor that I think they'll start with in session 2, as well as the NPCs in Trollskull Alley that they will interact with. This one, we're going to talk about the specific factions that can come into play throughout really the rest of the story. Just because the characters don't show promise for these factions in chapter 1 doesn't mean that you can't invite them to join later on in later chapters, depending on how they have their character development. You may find that one character who was perfect for the Lord's Alliance may actually falter in their duties and then fall more heavily into Order of the Gauntlet, for example. But let's go through what the book suggests and what I think is going to actually happen. So the very first one they give you as an option is actually Jarlaxle Baenre's crew, essentially. So remember, he is the villain that I'm hoping that we go up against. The Drow, who is the secret lord of the city of Sails, known as Luskan, north of Neverwinter. And his group is called the Dragonheist, I believe that's how it's pronounced. And they are exclusively for male drows. Now, he'll consider female drows, and he'll consider other people, but it's highly unlikely that he will actually offer them a job without more convincing. So what I'm actually going to do with this particular crew is I'm going to have them scouting and watching and seeing these characters and see how they go. But early days, I'm not going to be offering them position under his banner, essentially. So there's not really much we can go there. There's some really cool missions that we can have there, but because I think he's going to be the villain, and I don't have a drow, we don't have a drow in the party, I just don't see the point in offering this just because it's in the book. So the next one they have outside of that is quite a well-known one if you're in the D&D world, known as the Emerald Enclave. So the Emerald Enclave takes interesting characters who seek to preserve balance in Waterdeep. So the balance that we can really think of there I actually think really fits in with Damien. However, it is really more pushed towards druids and rangers and people more of nature, less on the holy side when it comes to clerics. So we'll see how we go with that. There may be an offer there. There's a really cool interaction where you can actually go to a garden which is got a disembodied voice of a character known as Melanor Fellbranch, who, funnily enough, has the same last name as our last character last video, Talis Davan Fellbranch, I believe his name was. If I check my notes, yes, it was Fellbranch. So this person actually became a part deity, and now they watch over this garden in Waterdeep, and they try and keep the balance amongst the actual citizens and everyone that's inside and outside, sort of thing. It's very interesting, and I think that'll be a lot of fun to play with. We don't have a druid, but I would be open to offering it to Damien, just because of the actual balancing of powers, which I think he'd be really interested in, being a pacifist. After that, we do have Force Grey, which is like the big, how do I explain it? So Force Grey are actually like the big, Matt Mercer ran a Force Grey campaign, I guess you could say, on YouTube. If you ever want to watch it, it's really, really good. And they're kind of like a special squad within Waterdeep. And they're an adventuring group that travel outside. They aren't just exclusively to Waterdeep, but they do stay within Waterdeep and protect Waterdeep. And you can be a Force Grey member and leave, but whenever you're called on duty to save Waterdeep, you must return. The characters can't become part of Force Grey, but they can be Grey Hands, which is like the lower tier level. Now, Vajra Saphir is friends with Raynar Neverember, and so he's heard about him being saved. So word begins to spread, and these guilds start to hear about these characters, which won't be great for Dr. Smile and Jagged Jack. I feel like they want to stay on the lowdown. But so the actual Blackstaff himself sends a message to one of the characters saying that he would like all of them to come to the tower to be seen and see if they would like to join. There's a lot of really interesting missions here. I don't think they'll all want to go. Personally, Jagged Jack and Dr. Smiles, I don't think want to go anywhere near authorities. And I think Watch already trying to be part of the City Watch and then failing at that. I don't know if you're interested in joining the Grey Hands at all. So we'll be interested to see how we go with that. I don't know if anyone's going to want that. Then we have the Harpers. Personally, I think Hootie is going to want to be a Harper. He's definitely got all the makings of a Harper. So the Harpers approach a good aligned character who shows promise as a spy. He's an investigative journalist who is most likely going to make friends with the private detective. So, I mean, the two kind of go hand in hand. One such character receives a message written on a paper bird. And it basically says that Rayna says that they're a good bet, and they would like to see them if they would like to see if they'd like to join and be one of their spies. And the Harpers are one of my favorite factions. They have some really good missions in the book itself. So if you go to page 37, if you're actually looking at the book now, there's the Harper missions there, and each and every one I think is actually awesome and a lot of fun. And I think we can really build upon that and make it bigger. These missions are really just the starting point for the campaign, in my personal opinion. You can add so much more into them, rather than just having be quick fixes to get renown. Moving on from that, we have the Lord's Alliance. Again, very similar to the Greyhands. I actually just don't think anyone's going to want to join the Lord's Alliance. The fun part behind it, though, the Lord's Alliance is very strict. If you don't do the missions, you can actually be kicked out and told that you're not allowed to be back in and you're not fulfilling your duties. All the other ones, you can actually decline the missions. So it'll be really interesting. I feel like if someone joined, it would probably be Watch, and that would actually spark Jarlaxle Baenre to maybe investigate these characters more, because now this well-known character who saved Lord Neverember's son, Raynar Neverember, who was part of the Lord's Alliance, all that has now been offered to join, and so maybe he'll try and corrupt him and make friends with them, with his drow spies, to move on from there. Order of the Gauntlet, I don't think they'll really come up very much, but they are pretty cool. The Order of the Gauntlet looks for members who seek to fight evil in all its forms. Right now, I don't think we have a player that really sits well with fighting evil in all their forms, except maybe Watch, but I think he leans more to protecting Waterdeep in particular. So Watch has a lot of versatility as a character. I'm really struggling to find out who Jagged Jack and Dr. Smiles might want to join. I have an idea as we go further into the book, and that'll be really interesting if they do take on these guild memberships. Hootie, I'm pretty confident will go for the Harpers, so that's already like quite he's a very fun character that you can definitely like already build the story around, essentially. Outside of the Order of the Gauntlet, well, I mean, we all know that they're in the city. We have the Zhentarim, and the Zhentarim are very particular because right now there's a mini feud going on in between the Zhentarim, between what are known as the Doom Raiders, and then you've got Manshun, who was one of the potential villains, his Zhentarim followers. It's a little confusing in the book because they just call themselves Zents and Zhentarims, and it's not very clear. I actually didn't know about it last week when I was running the session, so the fun part is that the characters find it out anyway. So now that I know, I can build towards that, but the Zhentarim will actually come to you as a Doom Raider who is not part of Manshun's little crew. And it's very confusing. I think, and comment below if I'm wrong, I think that the Doom Raiders are specific Zhentarims that work within Waterdeep, and they're like a little rogue set. And then you've got Manshun, who is kind of the overarching, he's one of the founders, so I think he's the overarching outside of Waterdeep. Otherwise, it's the other way around. Either way, one of them is definitely a smaller group that is like kind of going rogue, I guess, in Waterdeep, and one works the whole of the Sword Coast. Now, this is a group that I'm actually going to offer to both Jagged Jack and Dr. Smiles. They're already known for breaking the rules, not paying taxes, performing illegal operations on patients that need it, and taking it and kind of exploiting them for their money. So I'm actually going to send Zhentarim to them to point out that they know about their misdeeds and kind of almost force them to join. I won't ever make them join. If they say no, that just creates a new dynamic where they now have other enemies and people are going to start finding out about their operations that they shouldn't be doing. So that'll be really interesting to see how they go with that. And there's a lot of really fun stories that can play into that with the two separate Zhentarim going on, plus the Xanathar Guild having issues with all of the Zhentarim in general. And finally, we do have no, we don't. You don't get Xanathar's Guild as an option, which is very interesting. I thought that was at the end of the book, and I was going to offer that to probably to Dr. Smiles and Jagged Jack again as well. So that's who I think that they're actually going to go with. So to recap it, basically, I think Hootie is going to make really good friends with the private detective trench, and maybe there'll be a mini guild there essentially in terms of investigating. I think Watch will also make friends with him as a way to see how you can operate outside of the law but still within it. I will offer probably to Watch either the Gauntlet or the Lord's Alliance. To Hootie, I'll be offering the Harpers. Damien, we'll see how we go. A pacifist is a very interesting character to work with. So I do think perhaps that whole idea of balance could really work. I mean, he could be there could be an offering as an Emerald Enclave. And then yeah, Dr. Smiles and Jagged Jack. I mean, let's face it, if anyone's got the potential to turn into evil characters, it's definitely those two. So they're going to get the Zhentarim treatment. And I actually really hope that they take it because there's a lot of fun you can have in there if everyone's got a different faction that they're a part of. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to make their very own faction within inside Waterdeep. And that will come with a whole heap of extra political scandals and things they need to work on from there. But comment down below, when you were playing the game, who did you get offered to join by? Who was your faction? Did you ask to be in a faction? Did you decline? What sort of problems came out from that? I'd love to get some ideas on what happens if they say no and what scenarios can play from that you had personally in your games as a player. And then as a DM, what happened that you didn't realize was going to happen? So thank you very much. Next week, we'll have a little recap on how Session 2 went, what happened, who they joined. And we'll see how we're gonna continue on, because I'm not going straight into Chapter 3. Chapter 2 is going to be extended. We're going to continue with some downtime. We're going to continue some mini stories along the way, depending on how this session goes. So definitely tune in on the next video, because I think it's going to be the most homebrewy sort of session that we have, because we aren't going straight into Chapter 3. We're going to sit in Chapter 2 and explore Waterdeep some more and explore some new characters. And I may come to the table with some made-up characters or some past characters from our previous games. So thank you very much for watching. As always, subscribe if you really enjoy this video and you're new. Comment down below any thoughts that you have on Dragonheist. Like the video, share the video with anyone that you think would find some value from it or just some enjoyment. And I'll see you next week for whatever that comes out of this week's games. See you later.